Michigan MiTown Challenge. We're from the International Academy of Macomb. Our question is, how can Warren invest in local job programs and community development to reduce crime rates and improve public safety? I'm Keegan.
I'm MiTown.
So first we have an economic overview of Michigan. We see that the unemployment rate is 5% and has increased from 4.1%, showing that unemployment rate has gone up, and inflation rate has gone down in recent years, which it's been decreasing steadily since the pandemic. Was 4.5, is now 2.8, but it's still relatively high. You have 200.4 crimes committed per 10,000 people, which is higher than the national average. So that's a little unsafe, and the average housing cost is around $300,000, and it has increased since the previous year with $270,000, and has increased 12%, and our growth rate has gone down from the previous year with 1.8% and 3% the previous year. So if we compare that to the overall US, we can see that we have a higher unemployment rate than the average, and the inflation rate is lower, but once again, is still relatively high. Our crimes committed per 10,000 people is higher, showing that it's a little bit on the unsafer side. And the average housing cost is significantly lower, with the US average being $500,000 due to some outlier states having very expensive housing. And our growth rate is much lower, which once again is shown by inflation. So if we look at the key industries, the automotive industry is a cornerstone of the Michigan economy, with the three major automotive producers, Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis, providing 20% of Michigan's workforce and 21% of all US production of automotives. You also have $304 billion for Michigan's economy from this industry, showing that it's very strong and has a strong presence in the economy, Michigan economy. Michigan also has a large and diverse agricultural industry with $125 billion for the state's economy, and it has a very diverse agriculture with 300 unique agricultural products being produced, making it one of the most diverse agricultural things in the country. Some of those being dairy, corn, soybeans, and sugar beets, along with apples and cherries being the main things bringing in the money for the state.
So, located in Macomb County, Michigan, Warren City is home to 139,000 people and is the third largest city in Michigan. So, they have a mayor-council government system where the mayor acts as the executive branch, and manufacturing is a backbone, and where companies such as GM and Stellantis are one of the main employers there. However, even though they have such a strong backbone manufacturing, and such large companies like GM and Stellantis are there, they do have a high unemployment rate currently at 5.7% as of December 2024, which has actually risen from the 3.9% in June 2023, and it's higher than the Michigan average of 5%. The total budget for the Warren is $158 million, and about 51.7% of that comes from property. Even though this is a high budget, it is somewhat unstable, as so much of it is tied to property and real estate, which can be volatile at times. And the average house price here is $179,500, which is lower than the Michigan average of about $300,000, and which shows that there is a room for growth and room to catch up with the rest of Michigan. We could obviously, as 51.7% is connected property, can increase the overall revenue significantly.
And since Warren is such a large city, crime is a very big part of its economy, and the police department is very important, with $60.5 million being spent on public safety each year. And as you can see on the graph on the side, it has been steadily increasing over the years, and this is 38.7% of their total budget, which is good. However, the crime rate of 266 crimes per 10,000 residents, which is higher than 86.6 of all US cities, making it very dangerous, and this has risen by 15% from the previous year, showing that it's getting worse. Homicides have increased from 5 to 6, and although the crime rate has dropped since the highs in like 2009, it is still very high. As you see, the predicted for 2025 is 2,000 for serious offenses, 650 for auto thefts, 1,300 for narcotics and drug-related crimes, and total police calls being over 100,000.
So on spending on law enforcement, about 38.7% or $60 million of the budget of $160 million is spent on law enforcement. And for the $60 million spending on crime enforcement, it's not very effectively used, as there's only 292 total officers, where about there's an average of 1.57 officers per 1,000 residents, which has actually declined from the 1.79 officers in 2003, and is significantly lower than the 1.83 officers as the Michigan average. There is also $3.5 million budget for police equipment. However, this is also not very effectively used, as the crime rate has still remained high and is not properly being used to fix aging aging police equipment and other vehicles and such. There's also $6.6 million to Community Development Block Grant, which is CDBG, where basically they get from the federal government, and it's basically used to develop the city, and this could be more effectively used to somewhat improve the police department overall, as crime is a major issue in the city. And for the Crime Commission, which basically analyzes the city's crime and helps the police, there's a very small amount of 14,800 in there. And all this stuff which affects crime also affects other industries like industry and education and healthcare, which have a major impact on the total economy.
Another issue Warren faces due to high crime rates is the decline in home values. If you look at the image on the left, it depicts the crime rates in Warren by crimerate.org, and the image on the right is about the property values by neighborhoodscout.com. And so as we can see here, there's a correlation between the property values and the crime rates. As we go more towards the south side, such as 9 Mile and Hoover, we can see that the crime rates are much higher than the northwest side of Warren. And we can say that about 150,000, the median home value in the south side of Warren is about $150,000, which is about 25% lower than the median home value in overall Michigan. And towards the northwest side, we can see that there are higher property values around here, as well as lower crime rates. We can see that about the median house value is about $250,000 in the northwest side of Warren, which is about 24% higher than the median value of the houses in Warren total.
Law enforcement and public safety is a non-excludable, it's a public good which has merit, and basically there's ways that we can increase funding towards law enforcement, such as one of our ideas is to reallocation of funds. We can properly allocate, where we can allocatively move funds from other industries such as healthcare, industry, and education towards law, as there's 61.3% of funds going to these other sectors. However, even though these sectors are extremely important and they are significant to the city's total economic growth, a proper balancing and efficient budgeting of these funds can lead to these other industries not being overly hurt. And also, investment into law is incredibly important for total economic growth. As you can see, safer economies attract more businesses, as businesses like safer communities, and that leads to overall growth throughout the economy. And in a survey by Redfin, about 50% of homeowners say that cited crime and safety as important factors in moving, which could lead to property values being shifted, which is a significant part of their revenue. Other organizations like the Emergency Solution Grant and Michigan's Economic Development Corporation are extremely important as well, as these organizations have given hundreds of millions of dollars, or MEDC has given $180 million to Michigan in 2020. And other things are tax incentives, where tax increment financing and industrial facilities tax can bring incentives for businesses to come to Michigan. However, these do have issues, as property values do decline in a short period of time, which is why we want to increase house values.
And in order for Warren to increase these house values, they can have targeted incentives for home buyers. What I mean is they can provide property tax incentives, grants, or subsidies to first-time home buyers who are willing to move into these high crime rate areas. And that will overall increase the demand for the properties in those areas, therefore increasing the housing prices and ultimately reducing the crime rates. A case study in Orange County, California, from 2001 to 2020 by UC Irvine's Livable Cities Lab experiment identified 371 affordable housing developments and analyzed over 1.1 million home sales within a 2-mile radius. And what they found out was, after developing this experiment, the overall housing prices in that area throughout the 2 miles rose from before. And we can see that the robberies overall throughout these 2 miles also went lower because of the lowering crime rates. Additionally, the aggravated assaults, they either stayed the same or they lowered, and same thing for the burglaries, they either stayed the same or lowered. And the housing prices, even high poverty and lower poverty tracts, they still went over than before the experiment. And so what are some of the benefits of this solution? Well, the property tax breaks or grants align with local government grants goals to reduce crime and revitalize neighborhoods, which encourages home ownership in higher crime areas, therefore promoting neighborhood stabilization. And because of this higher demand with the influx of homeowners coming to this high crime rate area, it leads to more infrastructural needs for one, and which will cause more reformation and repair. And because of that, more residents will come in, and local businesses will thrive from new potential customers and workers. And this mixed-use zoning environment will overall raise property values as investors and entrepreneurs will seek these areas, seek to build their businesses in these areas, therefore improving the property rates and increasing the property taxes for the local government. That's it. Yeah.
Okay. Time?